Vegas doing a good job here. He's got his hands locked.
An 11-2 major decision for Isaac Roble and the Boilermaker.
What a win for Hayden Filipovic to get the job done. He put Andrews on his back a couple of times.
Grayson Clark scores the final 8 points to take a 9-4 victory.
Beautiful job by Blaze. You saw him kind of drag it back with his head stuck in the middle.
Boilermaker faithful here in Holloway Gym, giving Ben Benadia a round of applause as he picks up his 4th Big Ten dual victory.
And he gets the takedown. Brody Bowman.
Welcome to the Always Aggressive Podcast. I'm your host, Tanner Lipsett. With me, as always, the head coach, Tony Ersland. Coach, how we doing?
We're doing good. I wish the weather would have followed us from Vegas, but here we are back in the snow and the sleet and in the cold. But nevertheless, here we are.
Yeah, it was funny. We got out there and temperatures were high 50s, low 60s, and we were complaining about it being cold.
Yeah, not outstanding for Vegas weather. It'd be outstanding today.
Right.
We'd take the location here, but no, you're right. And it was kind of overcast. You know, it was. I guess if you're going to be inside at a 2-day wrestling tournament, all day, that was the weather to do it in.
We did have entire days where we did not go outside.
That was true, and you didn't see the sun either.
Yeah, it was most people don't. They're like, oh, you went to Vegas, what'd you do? Yeah. I watched a lot of wrestling.
We watched a lot of wrestling matches and never saw the sun. But hey, wrestling's a good reason to be in Vegas too.
Yes, and it's typically about the only reason I'm ever in Vegas anymore.
That's the truth.
So we'll dive right into Vegas. I think a lot of good. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, let's start with Joey Blaze, and he's continued to do what we think he should do and what we know he should do. He was the number 1 seed, rolled through the tournament, didn't give up a takedown, became what we thought was our 6th Vegas champ, but our guy Jason Bryant hooked me up with some older records. Turns out he is our 8th
nice
Vegas champ.
I like it when those things multiply.
That's good. Obviously, it's good for the program. Our records only went back to 2002, and he cued me in on a few champs earlier than that.
Awesome.
I want to say it was Willie Weinberg in 1996.
Yep.
And
Ohio product.
And Charles Jones in 1990.
Right. Awesome.
So, 43rd Cliff Keen, Las Vegas Invitational. Joey Blaze becomes the 8th champ, wins the 165-pound bracket.
Yeah, testament to him because he had to really gut out some things. As you said, he didn't surrender a takedown in the tournament, but by no means were those matches easy, and so he had to really gut out some tough situations. I even think he had a head cold and some other things going on there, right? Just some minor challenges, but he continues again to find ways to win tough matches, and that's a big deal. You're finding ways to win even when maybe you're not on your attacks as much as you'd like to be. And I know that's something he's expressed to me. He'd like to be on the legs a little bit more, creating more scoring situations. But, again, finding ways to make it go his way.
It's interesting. I know we do a lot of preaching of the process, not being results, not focusing on the result to determine whether you were successful or not. Joey has been very good about this year. I think, you could very easily dismiss it, like, well, he's winning all the time. It's easier to just focus on the process. But I don't think that that's something we should take away from him.
No, you're proud that he won, but then you always evaluate right from, and then I tell this to the guys all the time, like, you don't want to ride these emotions up and down, win, good, lose, bad. Like, you always evaluate yourself from a strategic sense. Like, how did you execute? Were your setups strong? Were your penetrations there? How did you really execute? And then now you got kind of feedback that you can make corrections, right? And that's what all you're trying to do is be aware of where maybe you want to be better and then go about correcting them so that when you get down to the end of the year, you've made those corrections and you can count on them. So again, even though he won, great, we're going through the same process with him as we do everybody else. We had some guys be really short in terms of our expectations, but the process, as you mentioned, is always the same. Like, hey, how were we strong? Where were we kind of weak? And then let's now that we got an awareness of it, let's make corrections and move forward.
2 really good wins specifically in the semifinals and the finals. Ty Whalen from Princeton in the semifinals Ty had a great tournament and building up to that match with Joey, and Joey managed to take care of business there. Yep. And then turned around and got Arizona State's Nico Ruiz in the finals, a 1 takedown match, but definitely one that Joey dominated from whistle to whistle.
Yeah, and he was on the legs. We talk about corrections. We were on the legs a couple of times and didn't go to the right position on the finish. And so that's something we're going to take from it, right? Like, we left points on the board. And so, again, even though he was kind of in control and never really in danger there were corrections to be made. But I like the fact that he was on the legs a little bit more, in that match than maybe the Whalen match, where he kind of had to rely on his riding, which is still great. I love to see Joey investing and keeping pressure on guys in other ways. And, especially in the Princeton match in the semis, he put on a tough ride on the kid. I think, there are adjustments for him to make.
I know at one point during that ride in the Princeton match, Joey threw a leg in, and you guys had a little bit of coaching panic in that moment.
Yeah, it's not something that you see Joey do all the time,
No.
right? It's not a familiar position for him. So you don't like to see kids in general go to something that you don't see every day, right? Like, I want to know what's going to happen. Like, when we walk out, the guys you feel really good about are the guys you know where you're going to go wrestle.
You want to know what's going to happen?
Dang right.
That's your D.
It's a tough place for a coach to be, but just
specifically you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt. You like to be in control, and when you're coaching, right, you got to sit back and take it all in. But there's no doubt, like, especially with a guy like, let's just use Joey since we're talking about. I generally know where he's going to take his wrestling.
Sure.
You know where he's going, even if it's a scramble, you know where he's taking the wrestling, and you feel good about that because he's dragging guys into his positions. It's when you're kind of going into those deep waters of, like, I've not seen this position a lot from this guy. What are we really going to get out of it?
A little nerve-wracking.
That's when coach gets a little nervous, about, hey, what are we really going to get here? And when he threw that leg, I ain't gonna lie, that's kind of like, I don't see a lot of leg riding out of Joey. But he handled it well and got to his next position and moved on. But yeah, that's tough on coaching that way.
For sure. Joey was one of 4 guys to get on the podium for us. 10th place finish overall.
Yep.
Joey, following him, Stony Buell placed at 157 pounds.
Yep.
Ben Venadia at 197 pounds.
Yeah, last opportunity to get on the podium and made good on it. Got on there this year.
And Brody Bowman at 174
Yep.
managed to gut out a position. I think first, let's go with Stoney. Stoney finished 6th at 157 pounds.
Yep.
Continues to show that the weight drop for him was the right move.
Yep.
Made the semifinals with another win over Cale Swenson of South Dakota State.
Yep.
Those big non-conference wins are going to pay off, come March.
Yep.
And sits, like, I don't know if I said this, 9-3 on the season.
Yeah.
Really doing the right things.
Yeah, I really liked his execution up to maybe. Well, no, it was a good tournament.
Sure.
This is the coach in me. This is where I go to
Never
corrections.
satisfied,
Right?
folks. Never satisfied.
I'm living in the correction universe right now. And the fact that he found a way to beat a tough South Dakota State opponent again, Swenson, that was the final at Tiger Style. He came out really strong in that quarterfinal and had great momentum. Got the takedown, got the ride out, really put himself in a dominant position for that match. And then we kind of took our foot off the gas and got rode a lot. And that was something that, again, I want to bring up just because – I thought we got a little too comfortable, and it got tight. And to Stoney's credit, he found a way to get the win at the end. He gutted out some tough positions and made it work. But again, I want Stoney to know specifically, it's kind of like I'm talking to him right now, is they don't have to be close. He can keep going. He can keep scoring points. He can keep dominating. Like, why let a guy back into the match? And so that's just something, again, where, it is the right move for him. He is down. It continues to show up that this was, he's capable of great success at this weight. But, man, we got to be greedy. When you got it going your way, you keep it going your way, and you keep that foot on their neck until it's over and the last whistle is sounded. So really excited the way Stoney kind of wrestled up through his quarterfinals. Want to really kind of pick at him with some of the better guys that we saw after that at what our approach was. But, again, you said it, right move for him. Great success so far. We got to keep getting better, making corrections. We got to stay greedy. I don't want any kind of this success, I guess, to kind of let us relax or get us comfortable.
100%. Ben Venadia, last chance at Vegas, went out there, took advantage, 7th place showing, 197 pounds. Overall wrestled a really good tournament.
Yeah, excited for him. He's doing his best wrestling. He's finding ways to score on everybody too. Even he wrestled a very tough opponent there in Elam. I think what number 1 ranked
Quarterfinals, yeah.
Quarterfinal, and scored early on a very nice attack. And so again with him, it's kind of consistency. And maybe that's just where I'm at with the team is But I think specifically with Ben, he showed some very nice attacks and ability to score. Even his writing's getting better. Man, that consistency, just against the best guys, you got to be able to go there often and show them that, hey, you're going to be there, not go away. And so that's one thing where I'm living with Ben is certainly very capable. I want to just see it a little more consistent against the best guys.
For sure.
Against the best guys. But no, really excited for him. He's working his tail off. You see him conscientious in practice about, the corrections he's trying to make. And I love that he's dialed in that way.
And it's a guy that, throughout his career, a lot of his setups, everything has been through the hand fight. Mm-hmm. And you can see he's really taken that to a new level this year.
Yeah. Hand fighting really strong, getting guys out of position. And now, in a matter of fact, this was kind of one of our emphasis this morning is like, hey, once we got a guy out, how are we attacking? Where is the shot coming from? And he's a guy I was thinking about with that a lot because he'd move a guy and break their position with that heavy hand fight, wasn't always following up. And again, this morning, he was really dialed in on how that can kind of, lead to more points for him, I guess.
Last not least, Brody Bowman was able to go out and avenge his only loss of the year going into Vegas.
Yep.
And earn his way onto the podium, but then decided to medically disqualify himself from the tournament, and but still came home with an 8th place finish.
Yeah, showed a lot of character. As you mentioned, he had to gut out a win. It was a little bit of a sore knee, right? Tweaked it, in the quarters?
In the quarters against Brody Conley from West Virginia.
Unfortunate that he tweaked it, but we felt like, hey, even though it was a little stiff, that he could still go. I knew it would be a tough situation for him, but he did. He showed a lot of toughness and some grit there, and he went out and he beat a guy, on a sore knee that had beaten him in the duels. And so again, like it was a gut check moment, and I was really excited for Brody that he knows he can compete and do well, even though, hey, maybe I'm sore, stiff. Maybe it's not quite my best, but I can still find ways to get this done. So that was a great gut check moment for him. Found he can still have success in tough circumstances.
Absolutely.
All positive for him.
2 guys fell just short of the podium, but definitely wrestled very well. We'll start first with 149 pounds, Gavin Brown. Blood round, for 149. Came up a little short. Ended up, his 2 losses in the tournament were to a guy who made the finals in Eli Rivera of Princeton, who's now ranked in the top 10 in the country, and David Evans of Utah Valley University, who I think is maybe 11th or 12th in the country,
Yep.
But was very much in both of those matches. And I think, we found a guy who, as he continues to wrestle more matches, as he continues to build confidence and momentum, is really coming out into his own.
Yeah, I think you said it, at wrestle more matches, right? Like he looks a lot more comfortable now, and specifically at Vegas, than he did in some of the earlier matches. I go back to like Tiger Style, how he competed there, and even though he had some good wins, some strong performances, he just didn't look as free and as loose and as active as he's getting to now. He's starting to find his attacks and understand his positions a little bit better. So, yeah, with increased mat time, he's gotten more comfortable, and it's reflected in his wrestling. Like he's a tough out, like win or lose. I don't want it to be about win or lose, but he's a tough out. He's a handful for anybody he's going to face right now, and he should feel really good about the direction of his wrestling.
Another guy that we mentioned, Brody Bowman, getting a little vengeance. He was able to get a little vengeance as well. Went and beat Hollingsworth from Oklahoma. Yep. On the backside and to advance, and kind of got that back on his record. And as a result is getting a little national recognition. Yeah,
no doubt. And then the other guy I think of notable win or significant for him is the West Virginia guys at McDougal.
McDougal, McDougal, national qualifier, transfer from Oklahoma.
Yep, into West Virginia. Good, solid opponent. Was highly ranked. I don't know where he's at now in the polls, honestly, but he's had a high ranking. Has been the nationals again, and again, that's kind of a notable performance where I was like, you can see him being more comfortable out there against high quality competition.
Absolutely. Another blood round finisher, James Rowley. In my opinion, and you know, clearly yours is a little more valuable on the subject of wrestling, but James Rowley did what I thought was his best wrestling of the season out in Vegas.
Yeah, he's starting to come. You know, been a little uneven or inconsistent, you can say, in his performances. And, you know, he was finding his way to the legs more. He was a little bit more active, especially in his stance and motion. You know, his hand fight gains activity, too, when his feet are moving more. And so, really, I zero in on, like, stance and motion. That's kind of what I'm preaching to him is, you know, a lot of movement with his feet, using his fakes, down block and level change circle. And then he's finding his way to the legs a little bit more often than he was. And he's just too good of an athlete to stand around. So, again, even though he didn't quite get where, you know, he wants to be, what his goal was, obviously be on the podium, you can see him coming. And that's excitement for all of us, and hopefully that's excitement for him. I know James is very much, you know, can be results-oriented, and I'm trying to get him to just think about performance more. But that will come if he's on that stance and motion and the level change and is on the guy's legs more often. So excited about where he's going with his wrestling.
You know, the other 4 guys in the lineup didn't quite get to where they wanted to be. You know, trying to do a little soul searching, do a little kind of reflection on their wrestling at the moment. And I know that your message for some of those guys was one that, you know, it's interesting. Joey wins the tournament and gets a certain message. Mm-hmm. And, you know, those guys that may have gone 0-2 or may have, you know, 1-2.
Yep.
The message isn't that different.
No. And what I talked about, right, is you've got to get clarity is what I call it, but it's awareness. Right, like you go to these big events, and this is the same as wrestling in the Big Ten. It's no different, but that's why we go to these big events with tough fields, is you got to have an awareness of where you're short and why. And then once you have that awareness or clarity of it, man, now it's about correction. Right, now you have an opportunity to say, hey, I was short here, and now let's go get better, and you go work on it. You know, you don't kind of put your head down and you know, kind of go into self-pity. It's about, hey, I need to be better here, and let's work. You know, and again, so the message isn't that different. I mean, you know, Joey left some points out there, right? The same as, you know, Ashton Jackson or any other guy in the lineup there. That it wasn't perfect, and we certainly aren't perfect, but we're striving to be better, and that process never goes away. And that's just where I try to get the guys to live and understand. It's not just about winning and losing. It's easy for us to make it about that, right? Like I've always said this, we enjoy the wins, man, and you celebrate it. But it doesn't stop. That's great for 10 minutes. You're really pumped and you're really excited. But then you're on to the next thing. Our season isn't over. No. We're not done. And so now you're on. You look forward to the next thing. And that's just where I want the guys to live and think about how they need to improve. And so that for me is all it is. Let's not. Again, you had some guys that did not reach their goals that care a lot, and they work really hard. We had guys that did not reach their goals that worked their ever-loving tail off. They weren't short because of work. Maybe it's a little something else. Maybe it was where their mindset was when they walked out in the match. You know, maybe something happened during the match that kind of threw them off, and they didn't know how to quite respond. There's a lot of things that go into it, and so let's figure that out so we're better.
Overall, 10th place showing for the team, another top 10 performance in Vegas for the Boilermakers, and definitely something that we're going to be able to build on as we, you know, rapidly approach the conference season.
Yeah. It's I'm telling you, it just kind of boggles my mind how fast, again, and I've done this long enough to know better about how fast it's going to go, but it's just, you know, we're gonna have Morgan State this weekend. We're gonna come back and we're gonna put final exams. The first semester's gone, and then it's January wrestling already, right? 2 months of the season are almost out of here, and so truly, you know, it just reminds you, value this because it's going to go fast. You know, you don't have time to get emotional about it. You only got time to look forward to the next thing and get better.
Continue to get some recognition in the national polls. We brought up Gavin Brown earlier, and, you know, he cracks the national rankings for the first time in his career, jumped all the way to 22nd via Intermat at 149 pounds, and a guy that, you know, his ceiling is very high.
Yep. super talented kid, right? I mean, he's a good athlete, and he has a good understanding, of the technical positional aspect of wrestling. He does. He's a smart kid in that way. That's why I go to, him being comfortable out there and getting reps is part of it, because there's so many situations just beyond the technical, aspect of it. Understanding maybe how to gut out a position or how to get gritty and dirty when you have to. I mean, you might have to find a way to, again, it's not your best match. It's not the cleanest. You got, kind of maybe drug into something really ugly and grimy, but you got to figure it out and gut it out. And he's figuring out, I think, how to do that at the moment.
The usual suspects still filling up the charts there. Joey Blaze, 4 at 165. Stony Buell still with the top 20 ranking. Brody Bowman right around the top 20.
Yep.
These guys they continue to take care of business and get recognized for it. The coaches poll, the dual rankings, we are just outside the top 25. I think we got 17 votes this week. I think we're we're between like 3 and 5 votes out of a spot in the top 25. And we're going to keep having more opportunities to get in there.
Yeah, it's a good team. I've told people this on our way out to Vegas. It's a good team. They just need to keep banging away to kind of, keep climbing the, from a number standpoint. But regardless of the number, I feel really good about the group. I think that, on any good given day, if we can get all 10 firing together in their belief and what they're capable of, it's a very formidable team.
We will take that formidable team this weekend out to Baltimore, Maryland for our first ever matchup with Morgan State University and their head coach, Kenny Monday. Tell us how that match kind of came to be.
Yeah, well, and a little bit from Calvin, our AD as well, who's got some roots out there in the Baltimore area. Morgan State just recently reinstated not too long ago, right? And when I grew up, I can remember Morgan State having guys at the NCAA tournament all the time. And then they went through a period where they didn't have wrestling. But with them, again, they're in the Division I wrestling, and you got a guy like Coach Monday, who's been around and accomplished a lot himself and developed a lot of good kids. I think Calvin and I talking, it'd be a great opportunity to get out there and wrestle somebody that we've not seen and been out there in a number of years. And I'm always about new experiences for the kids and different teams. We thought it would be a great idea to get out there and give those guys a home duel and travel to end our semester.
Going to be a quick trip, less than 24 hours as we head out there. Noon duel on Sunday in Hurt Gymnasium, I believe, is their home venue. And so should be another good opportunity to see a lot of different guys in the lineup.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and that's the nice thing about a year like this. It's a long year. Guys get beat up here or there, whatever. It creates opportunities for other people. So I'm sure we'll have a few different faces in there as well. But there's going to be opportunities for some young guys to get better, I think.
That this is going to be our last match before the holiday break, and you always want to go out on a good note and then have that kind of time to reflect on what that whole first semester was. I know it's not the end of our non-conference schedule, but we're getting close.
Yeah, it's your information gathering, right? I mean, that's what you're doing. I mean, you're trying to figure out, again, I talk about getting an awareness of where you need to be better and then correcting so that ultimately, right, by the time you get into early January and you're running the Big Ten schedule, you are, at your best from a technical standpoint, right? You've made corrections and cleaned up positions. So that's all I'm looking about from this journey. You're not trying to peak right now. We're not trying to be at our best, but hey, we are trying to find out where we need to be better and have a clear understanding of that. And more importantly, the young men got to have an understanding of that. It's one thing for a coach to know where we need to be better, but then it's another, like, they have to have buy-in and really put an investment in cleaning that up for you so they trust it when they're putting those tough spots, I guess, or against those tough matches.
Well, Sunday, noon at Morgan State University. It's going to be live on Flow Wrestling. Should be a great opportunity to close out the first semester of competition. Coach, take you a little bit away from wrestling for a second here. Everybody knows you're a big college football fan. The college football playoff bracket just came out. would love to hear your takeaways on it.
Oh, wow. Well, I don't know how long we have left, but no, you said it. I love college football. I mean, it is another passion of mine. I enjoy it immensely. I think it's been interesting with the controversy with Notre Dame this year because it's not too different from how we seed things, right? Like you look at head-to-head for us is always number one, and then it's common opponents, and we have the RPI, and so that's a strength of schedule a little bit. So I've found it immensely interesting how, with the Notre Dame change, what that discussion has been like and how, they let the head-to-head stand. But Notre Dame has clearly been on a huge roll, but had played a weaker schedule. You know what I mean? I don't think that can be debated. So I find that really just the seeding and who got selected and who didn't really interesting because it dives into the wrestling aspect of when we do seeding, right? Who qualifies and how they qualify for nationals.
Both the Big Ten and the national
level.
level.
So I kind of chuckled and I kind of laughed at that. Yes, I thought Notre Dame should have been in, but you're not surprised when you don't put them side by side until the very end, which I know a lot of people really had a problem with. Like, okay, now they wound up side by side, even though Notre Dame's ranked way ahead and Miami's lagging behind, but at the last final call, BYU loses, moves Notre Dame up. They're sitting head to head or side to side, and now that head to head came to play. So I guess it didn't surprise me as much as it did other people, but I found that really interesting because it has bearings in how wrestling people kind of look at seeds as well. So that commonality was really interesting.
And 100%. And you've been in some of these talks with national committees recently.
Yeah.
As far as wrestling goes, and so it's I find it interesting that wrestling, our formula is public knowledge.
Yep.
Now there are pieces of it that are not necessarily fully understandable or transparent.
Right.
But we do have the formula out there so people can look at it and be like, oh, this is that.
Yep.
College football playoff does not have that level of transparency and formula and whatnot. And so it definitely it creates a great deal of conversation, that's for sure.
It does, and that's what I've found is really interesting. I will love and try to watch all the games because I enjoy it, and I follow it closely. But this conversation is where my head goes as you raise the issue. That's right where my head goes because, again, it bears on a lot of situations that we see as we try to seed wrestlers. And as we talk about, we have only 8 duels. You got 14 teams in the Big Ten. We're only going to see 8. In those duels. So there's a lot of guys that haven't seen each other. So what do you go to? Okay, there is head-to-head, but then it's common opponents, and then it's strength of schedule, and then it's ranking. So I kind of got a chuckle out of all of those things. But regardless, I'm excited to watch it all unfold and move past the initial talk.
What is your message for teams like Tulane and James Madison playing in the college football playoff for the first time and getting that sort of opportunity at the national stage?
I think it's all about being grateful for the opportunity. The moment can get big for you if you don't just understand that I have an opportunity. Don't let it put pressure on you and go in and play as loose as you can with as much passion and excitement as you can and let it rip. I think, if you start, again, it's a win-lose kind of situation in your mind. You start kind of squeezing the life out of it and you don't enjoy the moment, which doesn't let you be at your best, right? I mean, it's all about just being at your best in that moment, letting it fly and reacting the way you've been trained. So, I just say, hey, man, be grateful for an opportunity and enjoy the heck out of it and make sure you're yourselves, that identity that they've worked so hard on all year to create, and be you in those biggest moments.
You gave me a little bit of the Tommy Boy moment when he's talking about his sail and he squeezes it and crushes it and kills the sail.
Yeah.
That was the comparison.
That's the one.
That's what I got there from you.
Yeah.
So
don't squeeze the life out of your dream, man. Just enjoy what it is.
That's going to be it for this week's Always Aggressive podcast. We'll come back next week. We'll talk Morgan State. We'll go through some of our recruits and what they've been up to and how they're doing. But that's it for this week's show. For myself, Tanner Lipsett, the head coach, Tony Ersland, thanks for joining us. Boiler up.